This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.
Welcome to History for Cocktail Parties. I'm Thornton Kennedy, and we're here with our co-host,
James Ottley.
James, you've been doing some traveling, and that's the inspiration for today's episode.
That's right. Yeah, one of the stops was actually Memphis, Tennessee. I wanted to see with my own eyes some of the places that we're going to be talking about today, and it is a tough subject, but we're going to be talking about the international manhunt to bring Dr. Martin Luther King's killer to justice.
Terrific. Can't wait to get into it. But before we do, let's say a couple of words about our sponsor. As you all know, History for Cocktail Parties is sponsored by Play, a full-service advertising agency. They are deep in the mix with AI and digital know-how. See their many case studies at goplaydesign.com. That's goplaydesign.com. James?
Yeah, so as I said before, this episode is about the FBI bringing a fugitive to justice. So we're not going to go into all of the events that were leading up to that fateful evening, April 1968, when King was shot. But I do want to cover a couple or several elements to the backstory just to provide some context. First of all, James Earl Ray shot Martin Luther King at 6 p.m. on April 4th, 1968, as King was standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel.
And that's one of those misnomers, because in the famous U2 song, it says on the morning.
That's right.
And it wasn't in the morning, it was at night.
Yeah.
It was when Martin Luther King was heading to dinner.
That really bugs me that, like, so many people get their history or what they know about history from pop culture.
Right.
You know, and for them to get that wrong. I mean, the lyric is actually early morning, you know.
April
4th. And that's not right. It was 6 p.m. In the evening. King was standing on the balcony at the Lorraine Motel. That's one of the places I visited.
Yeah.
And he's preparing to go to dinner. He's waiting for his entourage to all kind of get together. More of the backstory context. James Earl Ray had escaped from the Missouri State Penitentiary previous year and had been on the run ever since. And he had been serving time for an armed robbery conviction. And he had been using the name Eric S. Galt as an alias. And I will probably use that.
Right.
You know, I just don't even like saying the guy's name. When I say Galt, I'm talking about
James Earl Ray. Right.
The other kind of part is that after he had escaped from prison in April of 1967, 1 year before, he had spent time in Chicago, Toronto, Montreal, Mexico, Los Angeles, Atlanta.
Really?
And also Memphis. He had been in Memphis before as well. And he had read about King being in Memphis and got to Memphis and actually read in a local newspaper that King was staying at the Lorraine Motel.
And I think that the local reports actually showed King on the balcony and showed his room number.
Yeah.
So that was a tip. But Martin Luther King was in Memphis that day for supporting striking garbage workers. Mm-hmm. And right. It was kind of a return to Memphis. Quick background on Martin Luther King. He came to fame in the 1950s through the Montgomery bus boycott.
Right.
1955 led that. He was the pastor of a church there in Montgomery, rose to national prominence. He took over the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He was one of the leaders of the March on Washington in 1963, where he gave his iconic I Have a Dream speech. He led the effort to get the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and of course wins the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. 1968, Hampton Sides, in his book Hellhound on His Trail, which is about the assassination of Martin Luther King, makes the point that at this point, a lot of changes were taking place, and there were other voices coming up through the black community, and there were some people questioning King's leadership. And so a friend of his who was in Memphis, James Lawson, asked him to come to support this garbage worker strike. 2 garbage workers had been killed by their trash compactor February 1st, 1968. And so King came up, and it was against the advice of many of his friends. They said they did not want him to go up there. They thought that it was a waste of time. But King felt like he could seize the moment and really push what was becoming more of a poor people's campaign. So he went up there. They had what was supposed to be a peaceful march on March 18th,
right?
But it descended into violence.
Right.
And if there's one thing about Martin Luther King, He was nonviolent through and through.
Right.
At this point in his life, he was slandered in the press. J. Edgar Hoover really had it out for MLK, and they used this to besmirch his reputation. Just a really bad scene. And he was having some personal struggles as well. So he decides that he is going to come back to prove that he
can do a nonviolent.
He can do a nonviolent, and he marshals all of these resources to come back and have this triumphant return. But I do want to make one more point, and that is on the day he flies to Memphis that second time, his flight is delayed for a long time. And everybody on the plane is wondering what the heck is going on. Finally, the pilot comes over the intercom and says, we have a celebrity on the plane, and all luggage has to be checked for bombs.
Right. Yeah. So he is he's in Memphis the second time to put on this second march at nonviolent and to prove that he can do a nonviolent march. Galt has read that he's going to be there, and he's read in the local newspaper that he's rented the room, or that he's at the Lorraine Motel. So Galt
and the Lorraine Motel was a black-owned motel, very important to support the black-owned businesses in Memphis.
Right. So Ray Galt finds a shabby rooming house that's actually across the pool and parking lot from the Lorraine Motel, and there's a communal bathroom that had a clear shot of the Lorraine.
Can you go into that boarding house?
It's been torn down.
Oh, good.
And they are building a memorial there, some type of park. But you can stand on the street, and look, and you can see, and it's just it's absolutely chilling.
Yeah.
And so he takes that shot that kills Dr. King from that bathroom window, and that's kind of where our story begins in terms of how the FBI, starts their manhunt and tracks him down and brings him to justice.
And that's really what this episode is about. It's about the work that the Federal Bureau of Investigation did to bring James Earl Ray, Eric Galt to justice.
And this was in the age before computers. This was before CCTV cameras.
That's the most remarkable thing to me is when you get into the methods that they used, it is so old school, and yet they were successful going through millions and millions of files by hand.
Right.
Fascinating.
Exactly. After firing the shot, Ray wraps his rifle and his some other belongings, his binoculars, in a bedspread that he had stolen or taken from his boarding house room, and he exits the boarding house. There had been two Memphis police officers, that had been stationed at a fire station that was across from the Lorraine Motel, just to keep an eye on King, his comings and goings, and presumably also to provide, some limited protection. Obviously, that did not work. At about the same time, or before King was shot, some of the other police officers from that unit dropped by and parked their patrol cars at the fire station. And it was these officers that saw the shot.
Yeah. It was someone was borrowing the binoculars when they saw, and I guess they had newspapers covering the windows. And they had cut little slits out so they could look through the newspaper at the Lorraine Hotel.
And so they were the ones that saw it, immediately put it over the radio. So Galt, again, Ray runs out of the boarding house and he heads south towards his car. He had lost his parking space in front of the boarding house that morning, so he's got about 60 to 90 feet that he's got to cover. And he throws his he sees these police squad cars that had down the road that had parked at the fire station, and he thinks they're gonna.
Oh yeah. He thinks the gig is up instantly.
Exactly. So he says if he gets close to them, they're gonna see that I've got something that looks like a rifle, and then the gig will be up. So he throws his bundle of items, the rifle and these other items, down in an alcove of a building that's right before he gets to his car. And that's at that time, the Knipe's amusement company. And believe it or not, that building is still there.
Is it really?
That alcove is still there. And it's not part of, they've made the Lorraine Motel into a civil rights museum.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool. And it is, this building is not marked, that there are no, it's not part of the Civil Rights Museum or anything.
Wow. Is there something, is there a business in it?
It looks like maybe there's an architect firm in there or something. But it's still there. And I had read about this alcove or this, where he throws this rifle and bundle
It's arguably the biggest moment in the case that he throws his gun down.
It's certainly one of them. Yeah, that's where they get a fingerprint. So he I agree. Throws that and then keeps walking to his car. And so the owner of that store is sitting, in his store, and he hears this thud. And at the time, the area, I mean, it's still maybe not the nicest area,
right?
Of town, but I think at the time it was really shabby. And he said that they interviewed the owner, and he said he really normally wouldn't have thought that much that people threw trash in his building or in his enclave all the time. But anyway, this was a loud thud, caught his attention. He walked up, and he sees what he thinks is curtain rods in a
Interesting.
blanket. Yeah.
Wow.
And so just moments after that, Memphis police officer runs up. I had mentioned that these police officers that were at the fire department,
right,
had radioed, or I don't know if I did mention that, but they saw the shot. Then they radioed into headquarters. So this officer, Judson Gordley, runs up to Knipe's store just moments after the rifle is thrown down there, and Knipe tells him what he saw, shows him the rifle, the bundle, and he tells him that there was a guy that was walking down that he saw walking down the street.
Yeah.
And most significantly, he tells him that he saw that guy get into a white
the white Mustang.
A white Mustang.
Was that 5 minutes after the shot? I mean, it was pretty.
Literally 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah. And so he shows him the as I said, the rifle. Gormley radios it into headquarters, and so the dispatcher, immediately broadcasts the description of the shooter. Yep. And the Mustang. And this actually is 6:10 p.m. So he is, I think he throws the rifle down a couple of minutes later, but this goes out
almost immediately.
Almost immediately.
That's the crazy thing. And they have a description of what he looks like. They know he's a white man. They know that he fastidiously dressed. They know that he has his black hair slicked back.
Right.
They have somewhat of, and the car.
And they know that they're looking for a late model Mustang.
Now, we won't mention the fact that the Mustang was the best-selling car in America at that point.
Well, I mean, we should, because they're having to stop a lot of cars. I mean, the cruisers are now, placed on every major thoroughfare. All of these police, officers are pulling over every Mustang that they see. So it's, as you said, very popular car. They're pulling over everybody. At 6:26. The sheriff's department sends out a dispatch or an alert that says that the assailant's Mustang is heading north and east out of the city. And to this day, they don't know exactly where the dispatcher got this information. And so
this was not the CB radio call?
Well,
it's different.
What leads to that?
Okay.
What leads to that? So this is now semi-public information that the assailant, because it's on the police scanner. Anybody that has a police scanner has heard this. Right? Along with the police officers themselves. So 10 minutes later, after this is put out on the police scanner, Lieutenant Rufus Bradshaw gets flagged down by a 22-year-old guy. He's at an intersection in North Memphis. And this guy, Austin, has a CB radio in his car. And the guy says to Officer Bradshaw, look, I'm listening to my CB, and there's a guy that's broadcasting, another CB operator that's broadcasting that he's in hot pursuit of a white Mustang. And he's saying that he's chasing, the guy that killed King. So obviously Bradshaw, stops. And so they're both listening to this guy's CB radio. And it goes on. I mean, this goes on for a while. I mean, the CB operator, on the other end is saying he's traveling at 90 miles an hour. He's heading east. He's running red lights. He said he's headed to the eastern outskirts of the city, towards the naval base at Millington. And Austin and Bradshaw, they keep breaking in, asking, what's
your name?
What's your name?
Right.
What's your call? CB call number. But the guy wouldn't give it. He just keeps, oh man, I'm chasing after him. All they'd tell him was that he had a blue Pontiac. He was in a blue Pontiac, and he was chasing this white Mustang. So, the Memphis Police Department, they divert.
They've got him. They've got him.
Well, yeah, or they think they do, right? And so they divert all of their cruisers. to this area of the city. They start setting roadblocks in the east part of the city. Everything. Then the CB operator, he keeps going and says, he's shooting at me now.
Right.
And he's hit my windshield. And, Austin and the officer say, well, what's the license plate number of the Mustang? And he says, I can't get close because he's shooting at me.
Right.
And then at 6:48, the CB goes silent. Nothing else. So at police headquarters, they're all still looking for this Mustang. They're in the east part of the city. And so police headquarters, they start, analyzing this transmission. It's strange because not a single bystander or motorist or anybody else has seen this high-speed chase through these traffic-choked...
At rush hour, right?
Yeah, rush hour, And, this was summertime. It was a busy time in Memphis. And no other police officers
No one saw anyone shooting. No one saw someone driving 90 miles an hour, blue Pontiac, white Mustang.
It was a phantom chase. And they determined that this was a teenage hoax.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. Some teenager listening to the police scanner had obviously heard that dispatch at 6:10 that said, for whatever reason, that the Mustang was heading north and east and made this stupid prank.
And wasted 30 minutes, 45 minutes of the police time chasing what they thought. They thought they had James Earl Ray, Eric Galt.
Just tragic.
Who was unknown at the time.
Tragic. And so, as you said, diverted all the police officers to the wrong area of the city and bought him time.
This is to be clear. He had no idea this was taking place.
Right.
Eric Galt, James Earl Ray had no idea that this was happening. That's exactly right. He's in his Mustang. He's driving. He's trying to get away. But what he actually did, he drove southeast. Yeah.
Out of the city.
He was heading to Atlanta, right?
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you why I was headed to Atlanta. But he gets away. He's because of, in part, because of this. And so by 6:30.
Had that not happened, would they have caught James Earl Ray?
Right.
Minutes.
Exactly.
An hour after the assassination. Right. Maybe.
Maybe so. So by 6:30, he's cruising. He's crosses state lines into Mississippi. And it's just, it's kind of mind-blowing that the police did not erect roadblocks at all, major thoroughfares leading out of the city. And I don't know why.
There's some conspiracies about that.
But anyway, so let's move on to the FBI for just a second. It's really hard to believe that the FBI could not immediately get involved in this investigation.
Well, I know what you're going to get into, but also J. Edgar Hoover had no love whatsoever for Martin Luther King. He had spent a good 10 years digging up dirt on King, slandering King as a communist. He was a Russian trying to destroy America. So the FBI had very little interest. Right. I'm not going to say that, but upon the assassination, they certainly...
Yeah, but luckily, I guess, they knew they had to do something, right?
Right.
And so their first hurdle was...
Let's be clear.
Okay.
It was not necessarily the FBI. It was Ramsey Clark, the DA of the United States of America, called the FBI first.
Right.
The idea is that had it been J. Edgar Hoover, and J. Edgar Hoover said this, leave it to the Memphis police, this is a local matter, because Ramsey Clark, the Attorney General, called and had found that obscure passage that allowed the FBI to investigate.
Yeah, so let me tell you a little bit about.
Okay. I know I'm getting ahead. Always jumping. Jumping my mark.
No, but that's a good point about J. Edgar Hoover. You're right. Attorney General Ramsey Clark realizes that the first order of business here is to find a legal basis for the FBI to be able to handle the case.
Because an FBI cannot investigate a murder.
Well, that's right. Murder was not a federal crime at that time. Even the murder of a nationally prominent citizen like Dr. Martin Luther King. And so the FBI, they knew they couldn't leave it to the Memphis Police Department. So he signs a team. Clark assigns a team of Justice Department lawyers to try and find a legal basis so that they can handle this case, this manhunt. And so they zero in.
It's kind of a brilliant early move.
Right. Brilliant and necessary, right?
Necessary.
And so they zero in on Title 18, Section 24 of the U.S. Code, which, quote, prohibits conspiracies to injure, oppress, threaten or intimidate any citizen in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States.
Yeah.
Pretty vague. I mean, I don't know. It strikes me that that this is. I mean, that they were grasping at straws. That this was all that they had. You'd think that they could immediately investigate a case like this or handle a case like this, but
no. They had to use now. If they had known he had moved over state lines, would that have changed?
It's a great question.
I don't know.
And being the one of the two of us that is a lawyer, I should probably know that. But I don't know that they knew for sure at that point.
That's my point. Is they didn't know where he was.
Right.
This is so early on,
exactly.
And Ramsey Clark really preempts J. Edgar Hoover by calling and saying,
"We got to find a legal basis,
put
and
the
we're going to do
FBI
it.
All hands on deck. Take this away from the Memphis police."
Smart move. Galt Ray drives through the night. He's headed to Atlanta. His ultimate, goal is to flee the country. He wants to ultimately fly to Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. And the reason for that is, one of the reasons is that Rhodesia did not observe extradition treaties with the U.S. And also at the time, power in that country was held by a white minority government. Yeah. And Ray thought that they would welcome him here or there.
It was a white supremacist country.
Right, exactly.
And so there are a couple different wrinkles to that. He was definitely motivated by hate and racism.
Absolutely. Galt had been staying. I mentioned that he had been on the run.
Yeah.
One of the places that he had been, and in fact, right before he went to Memphis, he had been staying in Atlanta. So he's driving to Atlanta in part to catch a bus, but also pick up some items that he had left behind at his rooming house, including a .38 revolver, which we'll get to this. But apparently in those days, you could fly on a plane.
Get on a plane with a revolver.
Unbelievable. So he's headed to Atlanta. He drives through the night. During the night, he's listening to the AM radio, and he hears that police are looking for a white Mustang.
Right. The gig is up.
The gig is up. So he knows he's got to ditch this car. He pulls over just twice. One time to wipe the fingerprints off of the car. And then the second time in this remote location, I think in Alabama, to get rid of the contents of the car, which this is weird, but he had movie splicing equipment and a camera. Apparently he had wanted to be a porn movie producer at one time. Just a weird scumbag.
And a scumbag human being, period.
So at 8:20 a.m., Galt pulls his Mustang into the Capitol Homes housing project in downtown Atlanta.
Right.
And one of the residents...
it was near the state capitol, right? You could see the dome of the state capitol from Capitol Homes, as the name would indicate, right?
Right. So he pulls into to this apartment complex, and a lady, Mary Bridges, she's trying to get her kid off to school. She sees him pull up, sees this white Mustang pull up, and notices that the guy backs into the space.
Right.
Presumably so nobody could see the license plate. And this is just a few, yards from her door, but she didn't think much about it, So at 8:41, Ray hails a cab a few blocks from the Capitol, and he heads to the Greyhound station. And his plan was to catch a bus to Detroit, but it's not leaving until 11, and apparently it's also running late. So once he gets to the Greyhound station, he decides to has the gall to go to his rooming house.
Even though he knows that they're on his trail.
That's right.
Because of the car.
Yeah, and I'll get to I'll talk about in a minute where that rooming house was.
Right. We're in Atlanta. That's where we record History for Cocktail Parties. And when you hear where it was, it's shocking.
It is. It's chilling. But anyway, so the same morning, this is April 5th, at the FBI crime lab in D.C., the FBI, they're starting to kind of examine and pour over the rifle and the other contents that were in this bundle in the bedspread that he had dropped or thrown into the alcove at Knipe's amusement store. And so they're going over this. They're trying to pull fingerprints off of it. And luckily, they are able to pull fingerprints or a fingerprint off both the rifle and the binoculars. And it's kind of interesting. There are actually three primary the way they analyze fingerprints. There are three primary ridge patterns that make up or can make up a fingerprint. They're arches, loops, and whorls. And the loops, they are assigned a numerical value according to the number of ridges that the loop has, and then further classified as radial or ulnar, depending on which direction the microscopic trail of the ridge points. And so the lead fingerprint analyst at the FBI finds that the fingerprints on the gun and the binoculars have a ulnar loop with 12 ridge counts. And this is a great finding because the FBI at this time had 82 million fingerprints on file.
Crazy.
Yeah, and no computers.
Right.
And so, in terms of when you analyzed and were going through fingerprints, you had to do it by hand and use a magnifying glass and
side-by-side comparison.
Yes.
That's the only way to do it.
Right.
The only way to do it was to have a physical human being with a magnifying glass, and in this case, hundreds of people staring at fingerprints.
And a lot of fingerprints to go through. But fortunately, because of the ulnar loop with the 12 ridge count, this really narrowed the search down.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It actually, because of the makeup of it, it knocked off
a lot of people. Right.
And
I'm
trying to
think it did. And luckily they're able to narrow it further, which we'll get to too.
Right.
So back in Atlanta, Galt, he gets to his boarding house on 14th Street, and it's at the address of this boarding house. It's not there anymore. It's been torn down, but it was at 113 14th Street. And this was kind of catty corner to where Colony Square Center is. And you were talking about before we were recording kind of what that area was like then at that time.
Right. This is, when you hear James Earl Ray stayed in this area, you think of it today, it's a very nice Piedmont Park, Midtown. But back in the 1960s, this was Atlanta's Haight-Ashbury. This is where a lot of the hippie sort of great unwashed masses hung out. It was not a very attractive area, lots of drugs, lots of alcohol. It was just a very different vibe altogether. Piedmont Park was very seedy.
And go ahead and mention Atlanta Botanical Gardens.
So the reason that the Atlanta Botanical Garden exists is because that's the highest point in Piedmont Park. It's a hilltop. And that was where a lot of the people would gather to do drugs, shoot up, do heroin. I'm not talking about smoking pot. I'm talking about hard drugs. And the neighbors in Ansley Park, which is a nice neighborhood just across Piedmont from Piedmont Park, decided that was unacceptable. And they literally had a $1 contract with the city of Atlanta to take that hilltop over, erect a fence around it, put a trailer on the property, and put a flower bed in front of the trailer park, making it a private, attraction. But it kept all of the drug folks off of that hilltop.
Right. So that gives you an idea of what the area was like, and that makes complete sense that this scumbag would be staying in this rooming house in this area. So Galt makes it to the boarding house. He gets his .38 pistol. He had hidden it in the basement. He leaves the owner a note that he's gone to Birmingham to kind of throw people off the trail. But he said, but I'm going to come back, for some other items. I think he had left a TV there. So then he heads to the bus station. And about the same time, maybe a little bit later than this, some of the ladies that live at the Capitol Homes, apartment complex.
Oh, this is incredible. Yeah.
And it is. They are talking about the news. They're talking about the assassination of MLK. And they heard that the authorities are looking for a white Mustang. And Ms. Riley, the lady that saw it first, said, well, it's right out there. It's right out there. But everybody thinks, well, that just can't, everybody laughs it off, and so.
It's a joke.
They think it's a joke. Yeah, I mean, and
nothing is done.
And nothing is done.
Even though that is indeed
the car
that they're looking for.
So, back at the bus station, Ray gets on a bus, headed for Cincinnati, goes to Cincinnati. He's there by, that night.
And just to give a little bit of context, this is the first day.
Right.
This is literally 24 hours after the King assassination. He is now on a Greyhound bus heading
to Cincinnati,
north.
Exactly, and he has a 2-hour layover. He's trying to get to Detroit.
Yeah,
he's got this 2-hour layover in Cincinnati, and I mean, so he goes to a tavern. He gets a beer, watches the news, and I mentioned this just to kind of reiterate that what a different time this was. I mean, had his picture been had there been CCTV, had there been computers, had there and people knew what this guy looked like, his going to a bar would have been the end of it.
Right,
people would have recognized him, but it was a different era. And it just shows you again what the FBI was up against and what a triumph it was that they were able to get this guy as quickly as they did. So anyway, he boards the gets on back on the bus, heads to Detroit, and he gets there the next morning. And I think in our next episode we'll talk about whether he's able to get into Canada or not.
I mean, that's the goal. The goal is to get out of the country.
That's right.
Which is fascinating. So join us for the next episode of History for Cocktail Parties as we continue what is the most incredible chase in the history of the United States that involves multiple countries as the FBI tracks down the killer of Martin Luther King Jr.
That's right. Thanks so much for listening. This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.